Hi, it's Krista Strayer with Flourish Yoga, where we live well and play often. And welcome back to the Start Your Own Home Practice series. This one today is all about the hips. So we're going to have a few poses that we had from last week, so I'm going to keep building on those for both the heart and the lungs. But we're also just adding in this focus on the hips. The hips is where we find that feeling of being in flow, right? It's our area of relationships. So if you feel like you are, kind of pushing against things and life is just feeling really stuck and hard, opening up the hips can really help with that emotionally. So we're going to add a couple of oils in if you are into that. Deep Blue is one that I really recommend for opening up this area of the hips, and partly because it has an oil in it called wintergreen, and wintergreen is the oil of surrender. So I'm going to start off, even before we get started here, just taking a little bit of Deep Blue and putting it on my low back and just rubbing it in right down there deep into the sacrum type area. So it's sacral chakra stuff that we're working on today, so just kind of rub it in deep. And I love to start my practice or to do this before I do hip openers and back bends, because it really helps to open up that area. Also good if you've had a strenuous practice or another strenuous activity, if you've been hiking or golfing or whatever that might be in your life, playing tennis, whatever that could be. It's good to do after your workout as well. So it's good pre-workout and post-workout. It really helps to bring circulation to your muscles and helps to relieve muscle tension and inflammation and all that. It is just a wonderful thing to use. So that's our first one to start with. And then we're going to add in frankincense at the end of our practice to kind of go deeper into our relaxation and into that state of, once we're in flow, once we've let go of a lot of things, kind of to bring us to that moment of our truth and just enjoying being with ourselves. Okay, so those are the two that we have today. To start off today, we're going to start off relaxed. So we're going to come into legs up the wall. So I want you to come up close to the wall. So you're going to be up against the wall. Swing yourself around so your legs go up. So just going to hold this for a few breaths. If you're not doing it with the video and you're following along on the guide sheet, feel free to just enjoy this for as long as you can. So for now, we're actually going to make it active here. So draw your toes down towards you so you start to feel that stretch in the back of the hamstrings. Important that your hips stay on the ground. So if you're coming up a little bit or you're too close into the wall, you want to make sure your hips are on the ground. The other thing is you want to make sure that your legs are straight. If you've got a bend in your knee, you automatically don't stretch through the hamstrings. So we want to open that up. And so the hamstrings are one of the areas that help to pull our hips out of alignment. So we want to make sure they're nice and open and released. So just having a couple breaths there, just drawing your toes down towards you. While you're lying here, you can open up through the heart and the chest by just taking your arms out to the side and then just work them out to a T if that's comfortable. If you're starting to feel numbness or tingliness or just a little bit on that edge, just drop it down. So we want to really work at gently opening up this area because we spend so much of our time here, right? So this isn't hips, but this is just a good spot where you can double duty. So take your arms out to a T, and then from there, you just start to walk your hands up, eventually coming to that cowboy surrender position, but only going so far as soon as you start to feel your wrists lift up, you back off again. So you're just going to hold this for a couple of breaths. So you're stretching up through the hamstrings and just letting gravity release up here through the shoulders. And then we're going to add in another step. So you're going to take one foot and take it across. And so your ankle goes just above the knee joint. This hand can come here and just gently open up. This one's still just relaxing, doing its thing over here. And right now, this leg is straight up there, and you're just encouraging this knee to go towards the wall. If you find that as soon as you put your leg here that your hips lifted up, just move yourself slightly away from the wall so your hips can be grounded again. Okay, so hips stay low, and the knee is directed out to the side. Now we're going to just intensify this just millimeter by millimeter. So from here, this knee is going to stay nice and relaxed out to the side. If you have knee problems, your foot can be flexed just to help protect that. If you're, fairly strong in these muscles around the knee, it can be relaxed. Whatever feels right for you, wherever you feel like you get the most stretch, right? And then just slowly starting to bend this knee and walk this heel down the ground. Again, keeping your hips on the ground, so don't go so fast all of a sudden your hips lift up. It's just millimeter by millimeter, you're drawing this foot down. My wall is kind of sticky, so I can't slide it down very smoothly here. Keeping this open, then just breathe there for a couple of moments. And maybe this arm here can start to release up a little bit further. Just taking a couple breaths there. Let me do one more. Good, and then release that back. As you release this leg, just grab a hold behind the calf, or behind the thigh, pardon me, and you're just drawing this leg in towards you. So now it's coming up to closer to a 90-degree position. You just feel and just getting a little bit deeper stretch through the hamstrings. Again, if the toes are tucked down towards you, you activate the muscles around here, and you're going to get a deeper stretch through that. But you only want to go in this stretch to that 80-90% mark. You just want to gently start to feel that stretch. Good. Releasing it down. Start off again by taking both toes down towards you, and then we'll take the other leg across. And sometimes you may have something going on with one hip, so check in if you need to move yourself further out or if you can move yourself further in. Further in doesn't really matter at this point for this one. So just encouraging this to open, and now this arm is going to go back and relax. And then just gently bringing this leg back down the wall, just millimeter by millimeter, keeping your hips grounded, so keep that, almost your tailbone rolling down, and just opening out through the hip joint here. My fingers aren't pushing, it's just like, just being there, right? Just having that awareness of your opening through the hip joint as you just gently draw the heel down the wall. Take a couple of deep breaths. And again, maybe this can move up a little bit further to open up with your arm on this side. And then releasing that, grab a hold behind the thigh, drawing the leg in a little bit. Just noticing what that is, what that feels like on each side. Good. And then coming all the way up. So we're going to work with gate pose here, which is the one we did last week. And again, we're going to work on the hip area. So if you have a small little blanket or towel, that can be super helpful. Other props you're going to need later is a block. I'm going to move that over to this side so I remember that I have it at the end of my mat there. So if you have a blanket, I like to roll my mat a little bit because this is a hard floor and it's hard on my knees. With a mat, you're just going to, or a blanket, you're going to set it off right to the edge of the blanket here. I'll use it to kind of hold my mat down, but this is just, and this depends on your foot arch, right? So coming up to kneeling, we're going to do gate pose, which we know opens this up from last week, but we're going to focus on our hips. So make sure that your knees are about hip width apart, feet go straight back, and then you're taking one leg out to the side, toes descend down, so you can push that away. So you want to have those toes, so if your toes comfortably touch the ground, then you don't need it. Otherwise, just tuck that little bit of pressure so you can ground in there. Now, as soon as you do that, your hips turn to the side, right? So we're going to move those back. So we're starting to get this feel of this hip opening action. So you're going to stay connected to that, rotating this thigh out. And you can have your arm down along there, other arm goes out, deep breath in, and exhale as you start to reach over, so you're still getting this hip stretch, but now we're adding a little double duty and opening up through the heart and the lungs as well. Good, and keep rotating your shoulders forwards. Again, that's opening through this area, but also through the hips. Good, inhale, lifting that back up, and we'll do the other side. So just grab your blanket over to the other side of your mat. Good, and then making sure your hip width apart, taking your leg out to the side, making sure this hip isn't like leaning over. You want to be right, you're stacking your joints all the time, and you're grounding down through those toes. Now you're turning your hips back to face forward as much as they can. You may not go all the way, just live with where you're at. And then you're turning your leg out. So we're actively rotating this thigh up, pressing down through the toes. Arms can extend up. I like to have this hand down just to kind of encourage this opening. Palm lifts up, deep breath in, deep breath out as you reach and extend over. So just enjoying that stretch that we worked on through last week. It might start to feel a little bit deeper. We're rotating through the torso, almost like you're looking up towards the ceiling. Good, couple big breaths, and then lifting back up, and then releasing back out. Okay, so from here we're going to go into some hip stretches. We're going to go into some deep lunges and get opening up through that area. So hands come down on the ground. Stepping back into, let's go back to downward dog just for a moment. First one, bend your knees a little bit, get that warmed up, and then taking one foot forwards up between your hands. So starting off in lunge, good, and so from in lunge pose, and catch my breath there, you're pressing into both big toes. You can tense your fingertips up. We're going to hold this for a couple of breaths, so if it is not comfortable to be here, feel free to go ahead. I don't have 2 blocks here, but if you had 2 blocks to come up on that height, if you have 1 block, you can just take your hands here. We're going to go into this variation in a moment, but feel free to do that. Okay, so you want to have your heart still lifted in this pose, but our main focus is our legs. So press into both big toes, extend back out through that heel, and can you soften the area around your hips and your groin? Good, just holding that for a breath. And now we're going to drop our knee down, and then we're going to lean forward. So normally we want to have this knee stacked on top of the ankle, but because we're not supporting weight on it now, we have our weight on our back knee, we can come forward. And this just starts to stretch a little bit deeper in through here, or you might find it in your hamstrings at the back. So it could be hip flexors, top of the quads that feel the stretch, or the hamstrings on the opposite side. This is typically called a runner stretch, as you're just going to extend forwards. Good, and then one more, and extending back to that leg. Take both hands on the inside now. And again, you may want to have the block there, or if you're super flexible, you may start to bend your elbows and take your elbows either all the way down to the ground or here onto the block. So just, my hips are super tight from doing a lot of traveling and sitting in the last little while, so I'm just going to be super gentle with them and just staying right here with that stretch. But go where your abilities lead you. Good. All right, so we're going to unwind that, go back to your downward dog to stretch it out, and other side. Bring your opposite knee forwards. Again, starting off with just the regular lunge, so knee is over your ankle, pressing on both big toes. So your thighs are almost like they're trying to come towards each other, like they're trying to squeeze in, but they're scissored far apart, right? So we get that action in many of our yoga poses, but it's a good way to work on it right here. So pressing through both big toes, extending out through that back heel, almost like you're trying to lift the knee up a little bit. Good, just holding that for a couple of breaths. And then we're going to drop the back knee down and bring ourselves slightly forward. And we start to feel how we're just kind of moving this stretch around in our hip area. So this is our runner stretch. Drawing it slightly forwards. Good. And then lifting it back up, coming in on both hands, and then taking your elbows down a little bit further. So maybe you can get right down close to the ground on one side. It's going to be different than the other. Maybe you need the block. Maybe you can use the block to raise the floor so you can get your elbows down. So just keeping this knee hugged in towards your shoulder. Good. Okay, we're going to see these again in just a moment. Have your block up close to the front of your mat. And then stepping forwards, reaching down to the ground, reaching up to the sun, and back to your heart. Sun salutations. Let's just get everything warmed up in through that area. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Bend your knees, plant your fingers. We're going to step back with one leg into lunge. So our first variation there, but now we're kind of adding some movement into it there a little bit. We're going to hold it not very long. Stepping back to plank, super strong through your core. Feel that belly lifting slightly up as you slowly lower down, and then breathing in, lifting up to cobra. Good, you can do whatever variation of cobra feels right for you there this morning, or today, whenever you're doing a practice. Tuck your toes under, and then releasing back, downward dog. And whatever leg you stepped back with now, you're going to step forwards. So you have that lunge on the opposite side. Remember, pressing into the big toes, extending out through the heel. Back foot comes forward, reaching down to the ground, up to the sun, back to your heart. And again, deep breath in, and deep breath out. Deep breath in, looking forward, plant your fingers, stepping back with one leg. Good, and this time drop the knee and bring yourself forwards. Just enjoying that stretch a little bit through the front or the back, wherever the area is you feel that. And then stepping back from there, plank, chaturanga, cobra or upward dog, and then all the way to downward dog. Couple big breaths. You can bend the knees, really extend up through the hips and down through the heels. Move your head around, make sure it's not holding any tension. Then the leg that you stepped back with, you're going to step forwards. And again, dropping the knees, bringing your hips forwards. Good. Back foot steps forward, reach down to the ground, up to the sun, back to your heart. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Deep breath in, looking forward, plant your fingers, and stepping back. And remember which leg I'm stepping back with. And this time we're going to bring both hands in, bending your elbows, and see if you can get down a little bit deeper. Maybe it's starting to get loosened up from when we first started. Remember, you're hugging that knee in towards your shoulder. Good. From there, plank, chaturanga, cobra or up dog, down dog for a couple breaths. I've got the bonus extra little blanket here to push my heels into in downward dog. And then that foot you step back with comes forward. This one's kind of an easy one to remember because you can usually figure out which side you had your hands on. And notice if that feels different. This one feels a lot tighter for me. Interesting, this side of my hips is tighter than the other. To work on fixing that, right? So drawing that knee in towards you, extending out through the heel. Good. Releasing that back forwards, stepping forward, reach down to your toes, up to the sun, back to your heart. So our standing poses, our balance poses are all going to focus on opening through the area of the hips. We're going to start off with tree pose. So finding you're rooting down on the one leg and then lifting that leg up. If you find it's difficult for balance, you could always add in some frankincense right now onto your feet, just to help with that element of balance. Okay, so all about the hips, right? So our leg is grounded. Put your hands on your hips, feel those hip bones going forwards, and then take one hand on your knee. You're stretching from this hip bone all the way to this knee joint. So feel that opening. So both hips are forward. It's kind of cheating if we take our knee back that way, right? So both hips are forward, extending out. Hands can come to your heart or up overhead. Good, just holding this for a couple breaths. And then we're going to move into dancer pose. I'm going to move sideways because we're going to move into our flow from here. So from this one, you're just going to reach back, grab a hold of your foot. Make sure that both knees line up, right? So both hips are level to start this one off. This is where we start to get deep into this. And you're going to activate this leg by pushing into your hand. So as soon as you activate that up, you're going to engage these muscles. Other arm lifts up, deep breath in, deep breath out, reaching forwards. So you're pressing back through that leg into your hand to open up, trying to keep your hips down. You know, all the dancers love to open up. You can get much higher this way, but we just want to really focus on opening up and stretching, oops, falling over, stretching up through the hips area. Okay, so from your dancer, now we're going to explode out into warrior three. I'm just going to step back so I don't come out of the frame. So coming into your warrior three, back foot extends back as high as you can. Now our hips are straight ahead, just like they were in dancer. You're lifting that heel up behind you. Once you get that nice and stable, you can keep your hands here if you like, if you're just focusing on this area of the hips, or you can extend your arms out. Warrior three, we're going to move to warrior two, or for half moon, pardon me. So your hand comes down, and now we're going to open up through the hips. So half moon is a beautiful pose for getting this hip opening. And again, you can keep your hands right here, get that leg lifted up as high as you can as you're opening through the hips, or if you want to add in that opening through the shoulders as well, your arm lifts up. Good. From half moon, we're going to work our balance muscles by coming forwards back into, find your balance, into tree. So again, just connecting with that, starting where, coming back to where we started. Then we're going to close everything off with eagle. So wrapping that foot there around your leg, coming down nice and deep, and then your opposite arm goes over. And so in eagle, we're hugging it all in. So we've worked at opening through the hips. Now you just want to let it kind of release and kind of give it that counter pose. So eagle is that counter pose. So hugging in through the shoulders, get that stretch through your shoulders as well. And then release, and back to standing. You can roll out this foot. That was pretty intense on this bottom foot for standing and stabilizing. So give him a break this time, and make sure your other leg is planted nice and strong. And we'll start off with tree. So leg goes up, out to the side, finding your balance point, remembering we're stretching from this hip joint over to your opposite knee. Eye balance is terrible today. Good thing we're focusing on hips and not balance, right? So opening out through the hips. You're going to engage these muscles here to lift up, but you're stretching from this hip bone to your knee joint. Hands come to your heart, or hands come overhead. Couple of deep breaths. From tree to into dancer. So releasing that leg, go ahead and grab it with your back foot. So your knees are lined up, other arm lifts up, deep breath in, deep breath out as you hinge forward. You're pressing strongly into this back leg as you start to lift up. Hips, you want them to be grounded, so keep rolling them back down and lifting and extending out again. From dancer into warrior three. So dropping those toes down towards the ground. Extend the leg straight out behind you. Nice strong standing leg. And then you're working on, it's almost like that scissoring action where your thighs are coming in towards each other. And then you're pressing out through the heel. You're allowed to use the wall, right? We're focused on our hips, not our balance. And actually you may get deeper into the hips if you use the wall in these poses. Good. And then the other one is half moon. So hand comes onto the block. You're turning and rotating. That back leg is straight out. And then your arm can lift up into the air. Good. And then releasing it back out. Half moon is, oops, no. Sorry. From half moon, we're going all the way to tree. I got so excited there because half moon is actually my favorite one up against the wall. Maybe we'll do that for a second in a moment because it really gets a deep opening in there. So from tree, and then we're closing it off, coming up into eagle. Okay, release that out. Just for a moment, let's play with this. Bring your block in. So one of my favorite poses to do, and even if you're not feeling well, this is still a good pose to do to open this up. I'm not sure if we've played this with this one in our series yet or not, but just standing, so again, arranging yourself. Your hand's going to go on the block. You're going to bring your foot fairly close into the wall so you can use the wall as support. And now you can really open up through the hip joints. You get a really deep opening. You can likely hold the pose a little bit longer, but you get a deep opening through the hips. You can also use this to open up through the shoulders, trying to keep your shoulder there anchored up against the wall too. And keep raising that foot up so that it's the same height as your body. Good. And then do the other side. Give it a quick little go if you have a wall handy. If not, just take the time to do an extra half moon. So raising that leg up, but don't worry about this yet. We want to really open out through the hips. So I'm going to move my foot even a little bit closer to the wall so I can feel that hip opening action there. So I'm trying to keep my body connected to the wall, and then my arm goes up, leg goes out nice and strong. Now this is the tricky part. In half moon, you see all sorts of funny things with your head. Can you find that position that it's just straight in line with your spine? Good. Couple breaths, and then releasing that. Okay, just a fun little extra opener there. Always fun to do. So now coming down, we're going to work with opening just a couple back bends today. It's mainly about the hips, but we always want to have a well-rounded practice. So in our back bends, we're going to work with half bow. So one hand goes across, leg lifts up, and then you're going to press back through that foot, opening out through this hip joint. So when we do half bow, I find I get deeper into this area. Okay, so hand comes back, lifting up. Just hold that for a couple of breaths. And then release that down. And we'll do the other side. So arm goes across, leg bends, reaching back, deep breath in. And then as you lift out, release out, you're going to lift up. Good, hold that for a couple of breaths. And then we're going to do both sides. So inhale, lifting up. Or inhale, just getting ready, and exhale, lifting up. Good, so just opening up through the shoulders as you press back through the feet, just like dancer pose. You're getting a little bit deeper opening, a little deeper stretch into this front area there. Good. So there's a couple other poses that you could add into, swan, wheel, even bridge pose gets into that. But for right now, we're going to keep going, keep moving with our practice so it doesn't get too much longer, over 30 minutes, and coming into down dog. So placing your hands nice and strong, get your weight on those fingers. And then I like to draw my hips back so I know what my placement is there, and then lifting up into down dog. So take a couple of breaths here. And then from down dog, we're going to go partially upside down by lifting one leg up into the air. So this is like our inversion practice for today, getting ourselves a little bit upside down. And then we're going to take this leg and bring it all the way through, coming up into pigeon. And so this is one where it exercises a little bit of caution if you have knee issues. If this one doesn't work, you can do recline pigeon like we did the other day where you're lying on your back. If you have knee issues but they're not as severe, you're going to make sure that this foot is flexed. So as soon as you flex the foot, you activate the muscles around the knee and it protects that joint. I just have it as my habit that foot is in flex mode whenever I'm in this pose. Good. Deep breath in, nice and tall. Good. You can stay right here if that feels like you're getting the stretch you want. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can come down on your elbows and either rest your forehead on your block, on your fists, or you can come all the way down onto the ground. Just hold this for a few deep breaths, releasing through the hip joint. And I like to imagine that as you're breathing in, you're just drawing in an element of space. And as you're breathing out, you're releasing and relaxing into that space. So connect to whatever feels tight and tense for you. Breathe into that space, and then breathe out and release into that space. Good. And then we'll do the other side. So as you release this, you're just going to go back into downward dog to stretch it out. And then go into our inversion on the other side by taking your legs straight up. Again, hips are level as you lift that up. Really press strongly through your arms so you're not bringing your weight forwards, but you're still extending back as your leg lifts up. Good. Trying to rotate my leg as much as I can there. And then draw that knee up towards your thumb. Your other knee, I like to step it back. It just seems to find more space. Flexing this foot again slightly. If you're super open through the hips, you're going to draw this leg up and you can take it up to, parallel to the front of your mat. Okay? Deep breath in, nice and tall. You can stay here or you can release down, finding that position that's comfortable for you. Crossing your hands and resting your forward and back of your hands is a nice variation as well. Just breathing into that space for a couple of breaths. Keep drawing this back hip forwards and releasing down. Just noticing where you feel tightness. And wherever you feel that tightness, and it could be different on both sides, just take a deep breath in, sending space and air into that area, healing love. And then as you breathe out, just to release and let go. So a lot of times we're storing some of our emotional junk in our hips. So as you release this area, you may have thoughts and memories that come up, and you just watch them, notice them, and let them go. You don't need to act on them. You don't need to engage with them. They're just things that you're ready to let go of. So just breathing in and breathing out to let go. Good. And then coming all the way up, you're going to take this leg all the way forwards. So you're going to place this, I'll go this side first, so you can see a bit better. Placing one foot along your thigh, and then you're going to just look straight up towards that leg. Deep breath in and deep breath out as you hinge forward. So this knee is descending down, and you're just gently drawing your body down towards that leg. It's up to you. You can make this totally yin and have this leg relaxed and just hang out there. If you find that that's a little bit too much pressure on your low back, if you're in total yin, then engage the leg. Inhale, lift forward, and do the active version where you're just working on stretching through the back of the leg. Either is good today. Couple breaths. And we're going to do the other side right away here. So just inhaling, lifting up. Exhale, come forwards. One more deep breath in. Breathe out as you come forwards. Good, lifting up. So not a long hold in that one, but just enough to kind of get things released. We're going to come into butterfly pose. I'm going to go straight for this one so you can see it easier. So in butterfly pose, you're just working on extending the knees outwards. So you may be able to grab onto your hands. You want to have your sternum lifted. So we don't want to be all rounded in through here. So we're going to lift up through the sternum. If that's easier with a little bit of height underneath there, feel free. Because we're going into lotus next, I'm gonna, I don't like doing lotus on the back, it doesn't work very well for me. So I'm gonna just leave it, and I have a little bit of curve in my low back, but I'm okay with that. It's not causing me pain in this one. So bringing your feet together, extending out through the knees. You can also grab a hold of your ankles and use your elbows there to open up through the hips. We're just being really gentle, right? We're not having anybody stand on our legs to open it up or anything like that. We're just releasing gently through the legs. Good. And then from here, we're going to go into rock the baby. So one foot is going to lay, basically, I'm going to line it up so that it's parallel to the front of my mat. The other foot, the heel comes into the crook of my elbow, and I'm just going to start to rock this back and forth. And as you do that, you'll notice different areas where you start to feel that stretch. So it can be way down here where you're hugging it in close. You can lift it way up here and just start to feel where that is. And you're just working on releasing. So not holding any tension there, just let it be fluid. Again, if you do have knee problems, you're flexing this foot to protect this area. Good. And then from rock the baby, actually let's do rock the baby on the other side so we're all even before we go further. So lifting up nice and tall, and then just rocking this in a few different places and opening up. And then we've got some choices for you. Lotus is one of those poses that it might be easy the first time you ever do yoga, and it may be impossible after you're doing yoga for 22 years, right? It is anatomy driven, that sometimes our pelvis structure just isn't meant to be in lotus, and that's okay. Sometimes it's just flexibility, and we can work with that, and that's okay. So options for this are sitting cross-legged, and if your anatomy is such that this feels like a challenge, you might just stay right here. And again, you can feel free and grab a hold of a blanket for this too. Option 2 is half lotus, where you have your ankle up against you, like coming right up onto here. And if this feels like a good stretch for you today, feel free to stay right there. It's not one of these ones that we want to push too far. And again, my foot, so you want to make sure you have no wrinkles on the back of your heel. So you're extending out through your toes so that this area here is protected, right? So you're flexing that foot to protect that. Good. And then so we're just going to let that sit for a minute, and then we'll do, if you want to go one step further, full lotus, you take that underneath foot over and around, and then you're sitting up. And again, you want to have both feet flexed, and you're bringing this heel right up in towards that hip crease. Okay, so you can stay there for a couple of breaths if you like. And from this position, whether you're in cross-legged, half lotus, or full lotus, let's do a little bit of twist. You're going to sort of breathe in, lifting up, and breathe out, twisting over to one side. Good. Come back to center, breathe in, lifting up, breathe out, twist to the other side. Just keeping it nice and gentle, but just getting that motion of that activation, that loosening up through our spine. Good, releasing it out, and now we got to do the other side. So as you let one foot go, remember, okay, this one was on the top, and you're going to release the other one, and then this one comes in first. And again, you can be just switching the cross of your legs and cross-legged. You can stay here in half lotus. One side might be easier than the other. So pay attention to that too. Never forcing on this one, but if you can, you're going to draw that foot up. Both heels are extending out, no little wrinkles in there. And let's do our twist again. So deep breath in, lifting up, breathing out, twisting over to one side. Good, back to center, deep breath in to lengthen, deep breath out, twisting to the other side. So the reason why lotus is such a sought after pose in yoga is that when you're sitting in lotus, your spine is naturally straight, right? You notice that if you're in the full pose, that you don't just tend to have that curvature. This is why it's a great pose for doing meditation in here. Okay, we're going to release this nice and gentle. Be careful of those knee joints in there. And we're going to come down to our mats. You can have your blanket ready. This is a great time if you have a oil for ending the class, whether that's frankincense or lavender or something that helps you to relax. You're going to take that and let's just put it on either the bottoms of your feet, tops of your feet, maybe the back of the neck would feel really good here today. Another great place for Shavasana is right here on your forehead. I'm just kind of working it in up there. Okay. So Extending down, we're going to do a couple variations here. We're going to start off, just hug your knees in, just release any stress and tension from the legs that we may have caused. You can walk back and forth there a little bit. And then the first reclining pose that we're going to do, and it's okay to have your blanket underneath your head to support it here if you like. The first reclining pose is going to be a reclined tree. I'll do it on this side so it's easier to see. So in here again, we want our hips to be nice and level, and then our knee is just descending out to the side. Again, you can work on this opening up through the shoulders if that's a good one for you. You could have your hands on your belly just to connect with your breath, or just alongside you, your choice. Just pausing here for a couple of moments, just in reclined tree. And then we're going to switch this to reclined butterfly, so both feet come up in towards each other. And we don't have support, you can put support on your foot, we're not going to hold it that long. Just holding it for a couple of breaths. And then the other side, other leg extends out long, releasing this leg down towards the ground. Just a couple of deep breaths. Good. And then laying both legs out long, arms come down beside you, closing your eyes, and just connecting with your breath. Release your shoulders down. Rock back and forth a moment on your hips. Let your feet rock back and forth, and then just let them fall where they may. And relaxing through the legs, let them feel heavy and grounded on the ground. Relax the bottoms of your feet, the tops of your feet. Each toe from your pinky toe towards your big toe. Take a deep breath in. A deep breath out, just relax through the hips. Deep breath in, deep breath out, relaxing through the belly and up through the back. Deep breath in, deep breath out, relaxing through the shoulders, let them grow heavy and weighted down to the ground. Let their weight extend all the way out through your arms to your fingers, and just relaxing each finger from your thumb in towards your pinky. Relaxing the palm of your hand and the back of your hand. And swallow and relax your jaw and your throat. Relax your cheeks, your eyes, and your forehead. So gently breathe in and smoothly breathe out. Gently breathe in and smoothly breathe out. Extra time, feel free to stay there in Shavasana for a few minutes. If you need to get going with your day, feel free to lift up, taking your hands to your heart, and namaste.